This is Delhi. Please stand by for our next program. This is All India Radio. The International Film Festival of India, or IFFI as it is popularly known, will commence in Goa from 20th November and will conclude on 28th November 2022. We now bring you a panel discussion entitled IFFI 2022 An Overview. The panelists are Jahar Kanungo, acclaimed filmmaker and writer, Vijay Jodha, renowned photographer and documentary filmmaker, Shomini Sen, film critic, and Erna Banerjee, well-known film critic and author who initiates and moderates the discussion.
In national program of Talks Tonight, we have a discussion on IFFI, International Film Festival of India. After going hybrid for 3 years, it is set to return to a format which we have all liked, loved and adored. Welcome. We have a very esteemed group of panelists, Mr. Johar Karungo, Ms. Shomini Sen, and of course, Vijay Jodha. So first thing first, Vijay, you being a documentary filmmaker and you've attended so many of these festivals, what is it that you're looking forward to?
I think they have some very wonderful films here. Since we've been celebrating Satyajit Ray now for some time, his 75th anniversary and all of that. So you have one documentary which is just like focusing on all the different art forms that he was attached with, associated with, and which influenced him as a filmmaker. So that's a great film called Other Ray, Art of Satyajit Ray. Joydeep Mukherjee is the director for that. Indian cinema has been hugely influenced by Parsi theatre in the early years. So we have a wonderful film which is in fact going to be the opening non-feature film in the panorama section. The Show Must Go On. Divya Kovansi's done. That is a film just focusing on this. So that's another good film to look out for. So I'm very excited. There are a lot of interesting projects out there.
Shomini, any particular favorite, any film international or from the Indian panorama that you're looking forward to watching?
The Storyteller by Anant Mahadevan. Again, because of the Ray reference there, and it's based on a fictional character by Satyajit Ray. And here we have a very interesting lineup of actors. Paresh Rawal is playing the main protagonist of The Storyteller. I'm actually very keen to know how the film pans out and how they interpret it in this day and age.
Right.
So that's one film that I am actually quite keen to watch.
Johar, the focus country is France this time, and there are 8 contemporary films that have been selected to represent the potential and the versatility of French cinema. So could you tell us a little about 8 films or one of the films?
I would rather put it this way about it, because these are all the contemporary films. This is very exciting. Exciting in a way because we have to accept that about the French cinema, particularly we know about the new waves and all, who doesn't know. But one thing is their film, they didn't have the burden to make the film for the mass audience and all. They did it an art film, and there are art houses and all. And second thing, all the films it was based on the culture that is there, and there was freedom about the choosing the subjects and all. Well, we don't know about, we may have, some guidelines and all. Nevertheless, French film means there is always something
exciting,
always something exciting.
Any particular film, any favorite that you're looking forward to watching?
There is
Between Two Worlds, there is Other People's Children, there is The Crossing. They are all new films. They were all released in 2021.
Yes, I think honestly, because for the last few months and all, I've been watching French films. Eric Romer in particular, and of course the Truffaut. And I would like to see it and see the difference. I won't say difference, how is there an influence rather, whichever I had seen earlier, all the great masters.
We also have some very interesting lineup of films as part of the Indian panorama. Any film that you think is something that you are really fond of or have seen it or are happy that is part of the panorama, Indian panorama? There is the Kashmir Files, there is the Storyteller, of course, as Shomini pointed out. And then there is Kurangu Pedal, which is also a new film which released this year.
Honestly, I would be interested to watch the films coming from the South, because from experience I found that there is always some originality, and which excites me. There's no question the great film and all, something new, something with original thought, which
right.
They have never disappointed me.
Tell me, Vijay, what kind of documentaries have you seen in the recent past? Is any of your favorites part of the festival too this year?
Seems to be a bit of an issue when you look at films that IFFI is showing, for example. We have shown, we had like this time also there are about more than about half a dozen documentary non-fiction films they are showcasing. Unlike some of the festivals, Cannes Festival, for example, they are showing a lot of feature films which are non-fiction. Like last year, they had this film, which is a British documentary called Cow, which was just following one cow from birth. The filmmaker spent several years making that film. It was very well received. So, that is something which we are not doing. Which kind of, because documentary, as it is a poorer cousin of fiction cinema in India, and IFFI, which is trying to promote film culture, and which means promote all kinds of films, not just fiction but non-fiction, art house, non-art house, etc. I would be very happy if they try to include some feature length, to our films and things like that, or maybe longer, on par with these in terms of viewership, critical reception, and prominence overseas. They could include films like that. I would have been happy, for example, that film which was nominated for Oscar, the Writing with Fire, about the grassroots journalist, which was made. If I don't know if they have, because sometimes there are all kinds of production issues. We do not know from the outside which film comes or doesn't come. But things like that, those would be great to showcase here, because it's a best platform we have for cinema, and it should showcase the best possible work.
Absolutely. Also, there are different genres being explored now. Like in the West, they show a lot of documentaries on sports or sports persons. This year, I think they have tried to include a wide variety of genres. Any of your favorites that you're looking forward to?
You see, in the panorama, for example, I was very happy, not the sports part, but otherwise, I'm not too interested in sports myself, so that could be a bias there. But the fact that this year is 75 years of independence, and also 75 years of our partition, which was a very dark period and a difficult period in the whole South Asian history, as we know. So you have two films where there's one which IGNC, Indian National Center for Arts, has produced. So, that one film there's another film which is about Olympian in Tang, which is made by Bani Singh, who's an artist based partly in Goa, partly in Delhi, and which is about her father who played and then was a gold medalist in the Olympics, 48 Olympics, which again touches on partition in some manner. I'm very happy films which have some resonance with what we are going through and all of that, and with the whole anniversary of independence and partition. So it's a nice thing.
I think there's also a film which is called Patal Tea, I think, which is in a new language called Bhotia.
Okay.
I mean, we have a lot of English non-feature films as part of the Indian panorama, but it's very interesting that newer languages are also being included. Shomini, tell us about the Bollywood participation. I mean, for lack of a proper word, I mean, Bollywood, I know, is something that a lot of people object to, but somehow film festival in India must have representation from various states, particularly the Maharashtra, the Hindi film industry. This year, homage is being paid to the legend Lata Mangeshkar, KK, Bapi Lahiri, and T. Rama Rao. Your thoughts on that?
Can you ever ignore Bollywood? That's my first thing I would want to say. Bollywood is something that's so integral, and it's become an extension of India outside.
And our lives.
And our lives, of course. But even outside countries are the first thing that when you're saying that you're from India, the first thing they say, oh, we love Bollywood.
Yes.
So you cannot ignore Bollywood. It's a huge industry. There is, of course, and Lata Mangeshkar is a legend. She's an icon. So you cannot have an event of this manner, this scale, and not talk about her and her contribution. So I'm actually quite looking forward to what the homage is going to be like.
The selection is going to be, I'm sure, very, very difficult, because there was a time when a lot of films ran because of her songs and a lot of other songs as well.
Right.
Bapi Lahiri, of course, has also made a very significant contribution to the growth of cinema in the 70s and the 80s.
Absolutely.
But I'm also glad that, people like Pandit Birju Maharaj and Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma and also Pandit Jasraj, who may have contributed briefly, nevertheless their contribution has been acknowledged.
I mean, it's an international film festival, and there is going to be a lot of focus on the people who have put India on the international map, irrespective of which genre they belong to or what they did. Pandit Birju Maharaj, everybody knows, he's the last word in Kathak.
Yes.
Lata Mangeshkar, of course, everyone knows, she's an icon. Bapi Lahiri also, for that matter. I mean, the infusion of Western music to Indian Bollywood sensibilities and to make it popular.
Particularly the disco songs which he...
Right. He had a massive impact on the youth in the 70s, 80s, like you rightly said. Even KK, for that matter, he's also being given a homage here at the festival. And I think it's absolutely relevant because he played a huge part for a great entire generation which grew up in the 1990s.
Also, I think it's important at a time when film music per se is not that important to the narrative of any film. Of course, songs are always there, but they're part of either the rolling credits or they are played in the background. Earlier, people would lip sync to a lot of these songs. It's a very interesting tribute and homage being paid to some of these legends. Don't you agree, Johor?
Yeah, of course. As far as for the Indian audience, I'll put it this way. For the Indian audience, it is very important. I don't know about, because whenever we are talking about the film abroad and all, I mean, when our film goes, how much they generally go for the quality of the film. Quality in the sense, there is audience for the Bollywood film, there is an audience for the other kind of films, let's say the independent films. So for this festival, I'll be more interested what is they are going to do for the independent filmmakers. And one thing, something very interesting, which is exciting, that they have said about 52 hours that they have to make 75 young people they are going to choose, which is very exciting. But I don't know. I mean, some people may say that within 52 hours, even the concept and all, how could you think, how could you perceive and then make the film? But that's aside. I think it is an encouragement to them. At least it is a kind of, what you call an exercise for them. I'm not talking about the creative freedom, but it's a great thing.
In fact, concept has been tried, tested a lot of places overseas, 48 hours or 60 hours. So it's a very good concept. It works wonderfully well, and it's quite you are very pleasantly surprised what comes out of it. So I'm very, very optimistic about that. Other thing, I think if you look at it in the larger scheme of things, it's something which is wonderful. Like, for example, this whole poster contest, redoing the poster of
the one and only Ray,
which is such a wonderful idea, because what's happening is that unlike, say, I mean, if he's been around for such a long time, more than half a century now, and a lot of things have changed, viewing habits have changed, access to good cinema, now you can watch it on your mobile, or with all the OTT platforms, we thankfully get to see some amazing work which you couldn't earlier access in the same manner. So obviously a film festival like this, which is a platform, has to keep updating itself and finding new way to attract people, attract younger set, attract people who are, you can say, kind of allergic to so-called art house cinema. So you put something else, you get some very high profile people from mainstream cinema to come to the festival, they are involved. And that whole Berlin Wall between art house and the rest, we have to find a way to get rid of it. So any effort to do that, any effort to make it more attractive for people, for young, especially creative, it's a great
also, it's a very interesting way to reintroduce Ray to the younger generation, the film design, who may not be I'm not saying that people are not interested in classics or, legends.
With Ray, if you notice, you see, one of the problems we have is this, because he did all kinds of films for children, small short films, longer films, documentaries, feature films, city films, rural areas, historical stuff, all kinds of films. And fortunately or unfortunately, only a certain kind of films did well with overseas critics and market, etc. So a lot of people in India have this notion that, okay, he was doing this very, very serious, largely rural, very slow moving kind of films, which is not the case at all, and he's done so much of stuff which is pioneering stuff, and things which we talk about now in the modern context when they say that this actor has got a new look for this project, or they've done this as art direction. When you look back, you find a lot of those things, he was one of the pioneers, if not the pioneer, So it's a great way to discover all of that.
Here, about talking with the Satyajit Ray, I just want to add one thing, because I was trying to do some study on him, particularly as an independent filmmaker, how he carried on. One thing, and he, as we all know, when he accepted the Oscar, he said that I'm grateful to the Hollywood cinema. So that was my main point. Of course, those days, Hollywood cinema, a lot of European filmmakers, they came to Hollywood because of the World War and all after that.
So there was a lot of influence.
The influence. Yes. And his main thing, a number of times he mentioned about the Billy Wilder and all his films, and he wrote letters, he didn't get reply from some. One thing I find that Satyajit Ray excels, that is, he can tell the story. His film is understandable, and then comes the how it is in art film and all. But one thing that he tells a story. So that way, I thought it would be very interesting for the young generation, about today's filmmakers, to watch him, how he tells his stories.
Exactly. So the contest theme is a tool to enlighten today's youth of the film and associated disciplines, giving them exposure into the master's thought process.
Also, it's about relevance. I mean, Satyajit Ray, we are celebrating his centenary year, like birth centenary, and how to make him relevant. I mean, he's such an important part of our history, of our pop culture. But for a 25-year-old, he's someone, as you mentioned rightly, that, it is more to do with, they perceive him as a serious filmmaker. So how to make him relevant for the present generation, to make his work available to more and more people, like a 20-year-old or a 25-year-old journalist probably going and covering the film festival for the first time and discovering Ray. The joy of Ray and his films is, I think, just to visualize the entire thing, I feel excited that, you get to watch Satyajit Ray's one of his films, like a Gopika in Bhagabain. It's such a amazing film. And right.
Yeah.
These films are like, they're social satires, but yet, so much fun. So
originally meant for children, but then everybody can watch them and enjoy
absolutely. So, to watch those kind of films and then discover that, oh my God, Satyajit Ray and his work is just so exciting.
Yeah. Let's say the very complex subject that is, what do you call the corporate culture and all. There has been a lot of Hollywood great films.
Yeah.
Shima Baddo, he made it. How easily he did it. Even today, if you watch the film, you find that this film, it is not, he's talking about the old stories and all. It is so relevant. And the way he perceived it, the way he, narrated, these again coming to his ability to tell a story.
And I think a lot of these films, not just documentary, from a documentary perspective also, when you look at his fiction, even though they are fiction, they're shot on location, and he's used a lot of techniques more popular with the documentary filmmakers. So in a way, when you look like this film, for example, you look at what Calcutta looked at that period, and it's so beautifully shot. You see what the trains were like at that time, so it's just such a pleasure to see all of that, because those places have changed so much. People, there's so many more billboards, congestion, so many other things have happened, that beauty of the place is just such a joy to watch a lot of that.
It's a classic study. Any researcher can actually go back and watch them again and again.
Because the movies being made in mainstream cinema at that point, a lot of them were being made, they're far more big budget compared to Ray, but they're shooting in sets, so they're all over the top and very fake kind of thing. Whereas these films went out, he shot on the streets and in the clubs and all those things. So it's such it's a wonderful slice of life from that period.
So even if the subject is very intricate or very heavy, it's interesting to introduce the children of today with this design contest and gradually expose them to the master's works.
Yes, and if you see the entries, they're already the one they've given the prizes and all of that. It's such lovely, even whatever the constellation of the prizes, even those are such wonderful posters, just because each filmmaker, each artist would obviously have to revisit the film, watch it and get some ideas and then create that. That's how the poster business works in movies,
And
so wonderful stuff.
Though I will say that his subjects are not heavy. I will put it that his subject, he made it very easy, whatever he
I stand corrected. Very humane, I would say.
Yes.
Another thing which brings back to mainstream cinema section, this year we have a film like RRR, which is roaring business. A film like The Kashmir Files, a Tonic, and Akhand, and Dharamveer. So there was a huge divide between mainstream and off-mainstream cinema. But the fact that RRR is also doing so well internationally is a cause of celebration for a lot of us. In fact, it's one film which has done so well in different parts of the country, not just in South India, but also North Indians have loved it. Your thoughts on that?
I'm actually quite excited to watch. Just to see in the list, there's Kashmir Files and then there is RRR. Two very commercially successful commercial films.
But belonging to different genres.
Belonging to very different genres. And RRR, Rajamouli takes it to a different level. I entered the film watching the theatre thinking it's a pre-independence drama. And then when you see the kind of, the fantasizing, the fictionalizing, the something as grave as pre-independence struggle, but in such a beautiful manner. It was very exciting, and I understand why the international audience is loving RRR for the grandeur. So to see that, and then Kashmir Files, I think one of the most widely discussed films of the year.
On the social media as well.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So you to have two films like this, and both of them have had very polarized reactions also from the audiences. To have those two films in Indian panorama, I think is a great move with the other films which are not as widely discussed as these two films were.
Also, let's talk about Alma and Oscar, the opening film. It's the Austrian film.
Very interesting film. Very interesting. I'm actually quite intrigued by. I have just read up a bit about it, and I am very intrigued to watch it. I don't know how the.
I have just read the synopsis. It says it's about an affair between a composer and an artist.
Yes,
that's it.
Yes.
Also, we were discussing mainstream cinema. What about the local participation in a place like Goa, for instance? But do you think the inclusion of all kinds of cinema, not just one particular genre, but all kinds of cinema, is a fantastic idea to make sure that, there are people of all age groups and of all different sizes and shapes, if I can use that expression, to come to Panaji, the Inox theatre, and have fun.
Yes, for the fun point of view, I'm sure that there will be a lot of people, a lot of youngsters will come. But my main point is one point. After 2 years now, they are doing it, and I think it's a really great idea about the film Bazaar. Again, I'm coming because one side there's young people that they are making in 52 hours and all, and they are also going to get the exposures of the film Bazaar, how things are. But here, for these people, for the young people who are, of course, you say that, they are all looking for the short films, because for them to make a feature film which will be shown in the theatre and all this out now as the OTT platforms and all, we know it. And their first thing, even they make a 10 minutes film, how much obstacles they have to go through for getting a censor certificate, 60 days, 70 days, and the same price, which about the big film, they pay. And here, 20,000, no, it is 19,000 rupees entry fee to get into the film Bazaar. For these youngsters, they come all the way and all. I thought that maybe that festival, maybe last moment they change it a little, they consider it, to particularly for the young people.
Okay, also, IFFI, being one of the oldest and largest film festivals in the world, aims to promote the business of cinema by providing collaborations and networking in order to boost the creative economy of India, which will help transform India into a content and post-production hub for the world.
Yes.
In an age when we are also exposed to OTT platforms,
yes,
there are people who are watching films on their mobile phones. How important do you think the film Bazaar and all these platforms are?
I think, regardless, certainly OTT and, a lot of the foreign players coming into Indian market. So that's new avenues available, which is wonderful. But yes, the traditional film festival, which was film festival come market for distributors and for people to pitch their projects and all of that. So that role, I don't think that changes at all. A. B, you see what happens, even if your project doesn't get picked up as a filmmaker, you're out there, you do get a sense of what seems to be flavor of the week or whatever you want to call it. It's a little harsh word to use, but you get a sense of what kind of projects people are interested in. A lot of times you are really cooped up in your own small world. You are very, very passionate, obviously, about your project. You spend a lot of your time, money, everything else, and then you find no takers. So this makes you sort of revisit your idea and see how well it stands up and what kind of prospects it has. Maybe you go there, it doesn't work out for you, but then that clarifies that maybe this, you meet people and they say, this is not really something which works for a feature film. It might work better for a OTT platform, maybe a 14-hour thing or something else. So that helps clarify as well. So I think it's that is still there, and that is not changing at all. It's a wonderful avenue nonetheless.
I want to quickly add one thing. Today only it was, I think it's in the news today that Madhur Bhandarkar's film India Lockdown is going to premiere at the festival, which is primarily made for the OTT platform. It is going to premiere ultimately at release on the OTT. It's never really going. So for having a film like this Madhur Bhandarkar's film, which is made for the OTT, yet that validation of IFFI means a lot.
It means a lot, absolutely.
So,
Yes.
that says a lot about the future of the festival despite the presence of OTT. And secondly, a lot of these filmmakers, like everybody's mentioning about Film Bazaar, it remains the most relevant place for filmmakers of all scale. Like I have known people who have gone to the Film Bazaar with their first film, have zero budget, they've just shot on their mobile phone. And they've gone there and they've found takers, interest in their films. So it's a fantastic platform to network, to connect for filmmakers from across the globe. So I don't think the relevance goes at all for the film festival.
It all depends. Yeah, absolutely. Ideally, this should be the situation. There's the situation. But the point is, we have to see who are the people coming. Once I remember when I went to Film for my project and all, then I found that mostly people are coming because they thought or they think, there'll be lot of funding they get from India, producers
Yes.
and all. That is point number one. We have
So purely from a business point of view.
Yes, and here, suppose Vijay, you are taking your film to Sundance or Busan or the Cannes and all. You know that there are people even from the OTT platform, because that is also very important. Which are the platforms coming, OTT? Because they are the people who can take, small films and all, small budget film or small duration film. So it's a good thing. Film Bazaar, nothing like that. It did well, Film Bazaar, but now we have to see who are coming. Of course, you don't have the information until and unless it begins. because a lot of entries will be there even at the last moment.
Post-pandemic, I think the entries are also more, there's more participation also. So I don't think it's, I'm hoping, let's just be hopeful that, there's going to be more players in the film bazaar.
We'll be very happy if the bigger players, if they come, we'll get to know about what it is.
So,
I think
to celebrate cinematic excellence and contribution to film art, IFFI is the answer. Don't you all agree?
yes, very much. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
In context to what we were discussing earlier, it is a fact that last few years are very uncertain. Cinemas have gone down, but OTTs come up in a very huge way. So there's a certain churning taking place. So it may be too early to see how things settle eventually.
But I take the hint. Maybe the things are coming in a better way.
Yes.
Because they have selected the French films, under this thing. And French film means that there is, there is some kind of freedom in thought. So maybe
Besides quality.
Besides quality, freedom. A lot of freedom.
Well, I look forward to seeing a lot of other documentaries are there as well. So one look forward to seeing that. It'll be very exciting to see them on the large screen.
Yeah, same thing. One thing about some of the films that Sohin has mentioned. And Goa is a lovely place.
And it's also a wonderful time of the year when the weather is pleasant. And of course, there are all kinds of tourists also coming to India. So I think IFFI 2022 is also going to be as exciting as it has always been pre-COVID.
Yes.
Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You were listening to the panel discussion entitled IFFI 2022 An Overview. The panelists were Jahar Kanungo, acclaimed filmmaker and writer, Vijay Jodha, renowned photographer and documentary filmmaker, Shomini Sen, film critic, and Erna Banerjee, well-known film critic and author, who initiated and moderated the discussion. Produced and presented by Naveen K. Gupta of All India Radio Delhi, this program came to you from the Delhi station of All India Radio.